Good morning, Sweet World, and welcome to the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network. It's Monday, December 14th, and today's show officially kicks off season 2 of No Dunks and our 16th consecutive season of podcasting. Our longevity is all because of your loyalty. I'm still J.E. Skeets, and alongside me, always and forever, Tass Mellis.
Still Tass Mellis. What's going on, everybody?
We got the Bass Master ripping them lips, Trey Kirby.
Hey,
yo. The international man of mystery, taking it to the max, Leigh Ellis.
Friends.
Last but not least, making the magic happen, JD.
Hello.
There he is. And here we are. Shout out to the stream team joining us live right now on YouTube. Looked a little dicey there for a second this morning. I woke up to YouTube down and Gmail down. Basically everything down. Didn't know if we were going to have the stream team, but we do, and we're here. So shout out to all of you. Make sure you subscribe to No Dunks on YouTube and like and comment and hit that little bell for notifications. We got big plans for the YouTube stream this season. New merchandise. Remember I promised or I teased items? Last time we did
items galore.
We got items, baby. We've teamed up with BreakingT.com for some brand new No Dunks merch. You're seeing it now if you're joining us on YouTube. We got shirts. We've got hoodies. We even got a mug, a Good Morning Sweet World mug.
Nice scroll right
beautiful
there.
Scroll there. And this merch, I mean, this stuff is soft. We were just talking about before we came on. You could scumbag Steve it up in the hoodies if you wanted to, because you don't need to wear an undershirt under these hoodies. Yeah, the tee looks great, Leigh. So go to nodunks.com and get your No Dunks merchandise. You're pushing it pretty close if you want to get in time for the holiday, but maybe if you're in America, you could still pull it off. I think
if you celebrate Orthodox Christmas, it'll be there right in time.
That's true. Armenian Christmas is what, the 5th or the 6th, I think. That's right. So yeah, you got time for that. So go to nodunks.com, get your merchandise. It's really great. Final thing here, speaking of gifts, The Athletic dropping the holiday BOGO offer, the buy one, gift one. So you can get an annual subscription to The Athletic for yourself, smart. And then you can just give an annual subscription for free to somebody else. That's one price, 2 subscriptions, every team covered. And you can take advantage of this limited time offer. Go to theathletic.com/nodunks so they know that we sent you. All right, how's everybody doing? We last talked during the Westbrook Wall emergency podcast, but we basically had 2 weeks off. JD, are you refreshed and ready to go?
Oh, I'm so ready. I'm counting the minutes. Signed in our emergency broadcast. I've been literally sitting in this chair just waiting for this moment to come. So I'm very, very thrilled to be here. And I can't wait to keep going right until July 22nd or 3rd or whatever.
Yeah, but who's counting?
Who's counting?
Yeah. We're going to Tokyo after that, JD.
Did anybody get up to anything interesting in these last 2 weeks? I assume nobody really went anywhere, right?
Nowhere to go for us.
That's about it.
I tell you where I did go last night was back up into my attic because I'm not sure if you remember, but a few weeks ago I had some tiles, like some shingles, blow off my ceiling. Yeah. And last night I was restless, asleep. It was a bit of a warm night, and it started pouring with rain. It started windy. And I'm like, oh, my God. So I went up to the attic last. I was awake anyway, and I thought, I'm just going to check it out because
we've had get them Joe shingles.
We've had some loose shingles, and so far, it appears as though the roof remains intact.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So I went to the attic.
What a crazy, man.
Starting the season off with a cool
To
story.
the attic. That's incredible. Okay. Well, we are back and excited here for another season of No Dunks with The Athletic. And we usually do this at the start of the season. We get into our NBA season previews by tackling some burning questions. This is going to be a 5-part series, so all week long. So make sure you've subscribed to No Dunks wherever you listen to No Dunks. This is part 1 of 5, dropping all week long, like I said. So the first question, Tass, I'm going to throw it at you. You get us started. Biggest threat to the Lakers? I assume we're going to focus on the Western Conference, but which team do you think is the biggest threat to the Lakers?
It's the Clippers. Yeah, let's do it again. Same as last season. The years are exactly the same, right? Everything exactly the same. But I do think it's the Clippers, and I think it's easy to forget after the way they went out of the playoffs and everybody making fun of them because of them dropping 3 straight games against the Denver Nuggets after going up 3-1 in the second round. It's easy to forget they were the 2nd seed during the regular season. And I think they're going to rectify some things that were awry, that really set them off the wrong direction during the regular season. First, they're healthier. Paul George is not coming off shoulder surgery. So right. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are going to play a bunch more games together this year. And I think they'll probably play more games than LeBron James and Anthony Davis together. I know that's kind of dumb thing to say right now because Kawhi Leonard always takes games off, but LeBron is going to be chilling because he played so late into the season. So I think that chemistry is going to be a focus for them. Let's play and let's get on the same page because that obviously fell apart during the regular season. And that's the reason why they went and got Serge Ibaka. He is a great glue guy. I'm not saying Montrezl Harrell, the guy he's replacing, was the problem, but Montrezl Harrell did take it to the streets. He put the business out on the streets. I don't think Serge Ibaka is going to do that. He's a friend of Kawhi Leonard. They won a championship together, and he's a guy who can play down the stretch, unlike Montrezl Harrell. So I think there's improvement in the locker room, on the floor, and again, that focus is going to be on chemistry. And then the Luke Kennard trade that they made is an unheralded one. Luke Kennard coming from the Pistons, where listen, a lot of casual fans don't know who Luke Kennard is because nobody's watching Pistons basketball, but he's a playmaker off the bench. I think he could be the de facto point guard at the end of games. He's just a really solid guy because sometimes things got stagnant with the Clippers. Luke Kennard can be that player. And listen, I think people will say, what about the Denver Nuggets? They went to the conference finals and they beat the Clippers. That's true. I think they've got some their own problems themselves. Michael Porter Jr. is going to be relied on a lot this season because they let Jeremy Grant go. But I think they're number 3 with a bullet right there. People putting the Blazers above them. I think that's a little nuts. I think they're right behind the Clippers. And again, Clippers, despite those problems and the locker room problems, which will be a focus this season to get things together and to keep shit in-house, no talking to the media, they were still number 2. And I think they will be again number 2 over the Denver Nuggets, who I'm looking forward to. But you said, the Eastern Conference will avoid for this question, but I don't know. I think the East is a little more interesting, even though they don't have 1 through 10 as good of teams as the West. 10, 11 teams can make it in the West. There's more teams that can make it out of the East with the Heat, Celtics, obviously the Bucks, the Nets, the Sixers and Raptors if you're reaching. But I don't know. The Clippers have a legitimate shot to get the number 1 seed because I think LeBron and AD are going to rest a bit.
Okay. Well, before I ask you the same question, Trey, I saw the Ringer. They did their 2021 NBA tiers, right? And if you just focus on the Western Conference, they had the favorites as the Lakers, and you can agree or disagree on that. The contenders as the Clippers, Tass's pick there, the Mavericks and the Nuggets, and then playoff locks, Jazz, Blazers, Suns, Warriors, and Rockets. Now, I'm not great at the maths, but that's 9 teams there. So somebody
10 make it, don't they?
Well, yeah, that's true. Now that's a whole other question that we'll get to eventually later on. Is the play-in tournament actually making the playoffs? Anyway, do you agree with those tiers? And of those teams that I just listed, is there someone else besides the Clippers, Trey, that you think is the biggest threat in the West to take down LeBron and AD?
Well, I didn't read the piece, but I would say I agree with the tier that the Lakers are far and away the best team. They were the best team last year. They got better this year. You tend to get better playing your second time around. We remember the Heat after they won their first championship. They were even better the second go around. So I'm with Tass there. I think the Lakers are going to still be the team to beat. And I would imagine the Clippers are the team that's right there challenging them. I think even if Serge Ibaka coming in, even if the biggest thing he brings is chemistry, that's a huge win as well. And not to mention, it just simplifies things for Ty Lue. During the stretch, down the stretch last year, it would be, are we going with our offensive big guy in Montrezl Harrell or our defensive big guy in Zubats? Now you've got Serge Ibaka, who's kind of going to be able to fill both of those roles. It's a little bit easier choice, a little bit easier fit. And then I do think I have the Nuggets there, despite the fact that they're asking a lot from Michael Porter Jr. this year. With Jeremy Grant going to the Pistons to apparently handle the ball, they're all in on Michael Porter Jr. being able to figure out defense enough that he can stay on the court playing against some of these wings in the Western Conference. And they're asking him to take another step forward as a playmaker, as a scorer, as somebody who's going to be able to contribute 18 to 20 points a night. I think they can do it. I like the size that Porter gives them alongside Jokic to be able to at least combat the height of the Lakers. They're still going to be a big team out there, no doubt, when they're going with LeBron and AD. AD is just such a matchup problem that I don't know if anybody's able to handle him in the league. If he's your second best player, you're in a good spot. But I do have a little bit of confidence in the Nuggets. That being said, it's going to be a slow start. That's how it always is. Maybe the fact that the season is starting in December this year means we don't have the typical Jokic November swoon. So he's
Right.
an MVP right away. I don't know. I'm feeling confident in the Nuggets showing up again this year, but I do think the Lakers are still head and shoulders above both of those teams.
Yeah, and the Nuggets, I mean, we forget they didn't have Will Barton there in that pretty, impressive run in the playoffs. And so he's back in the mix. He should be healthy. So that's another body there. They could make a move too. They obviously have a lot of talent that they could package together. Maybe they go and try and get a big name around the deadline if they're struggling a little bit. Okay, so you got the Nuggets, you got the Clippers. Leigh, is there anyone else, or are you agreeing with these guys that you can talk yourself into to being a threat to the Lakers?
Yeah, it's really hard to make a strong case for another team in the Western Conference because the Rockets, I don't think, are going to be there. I don't think the Thunder are anywhere close. I think the Mavericks are still not quite there competing at that level just yet, especially if Porzingis is out for an extended period. We know he's going to miss the first couple of games here. So it's very, very hard to see anyone who's better than the Lakers because I think the Lakers got better than anyone else in the offseason too with the moves that they made. And now that Anthony Davis has his championship, I think he's going to have that championship swag this season where he's just going to feel so much more confident, where he doesn't need to put his stamp on the game necessarily during the regular season. He knows come playoff time, that's when he's going to have to stand up and really start dominating. So I think the Lakers do cruise a little bit, but I'm out on the Clippers right now. Until they really show me that they have gotten over those chemistry problems, I don't think the Clippers are the second team in the Western Conference right now, because a lot of this, I think, falls on Kawhi Leonard, number one, and then Paul George, number two, because Jovan Buha had a really good deep dive article on the Clippers season last week for The Athletic. It was a fantastic job there. And a lot of the problems, I think, stem from the fact that Kawhi and Paul George got such special treatment that it rubbed up so many of the guys the other way. And this season, I think the emphasis falls back on those leaders to be like, yep, okay, we got it wrong. We've got to be more of a team here and more of a team player. Mm-hmm. And by doing things, by not just taking games off whenever they feel like it. It's a shortened season. There's only 72 games. So things will probably be a little bit compact. Now, I expect, of course, Kawhi will miss some games. But last season, I think when you look back at it now, there were some warning signs there that he was just in his own world. And I think it did come back to haunt the Clippers. So I think the emphasis now falls on him to be more of a team player. And I want to see that from the start. I remember, in the Raptors, he was sitting out games really early into the season. I want to see him out there now playing all these games at the start and just showing that he's changed and he's adapting to become a better team player. Because I think if your leader is the guy who is being a bad leader by example, then how does the rest of the team fall in behind that? So that's something I'm looking for this season for the Clippers. And until they do that, I'm out on them. I'm not putting them in that same bracket as the Lakers. And for the Nuggets, I was disappointed they lost Jeremy Grant. I think they're going to miss him. I think that's a big blow. But on the counter to that, I'm really excited to see Jamal Murray this season because he was incredible down in the bubble. But remember, we talk about Nikola Jokic, who gets off to a bit of a slow start. Jamal Murray was the same last season. He really didn't get it going in that first bit of the season. And it wasn't until really down in the bubble where he really got cooking. So now I want to see him from day one, from game one, take that step up, because I think Jamal Murray, if he's not an all-star this year, I think that will be a disappointment. I think he was that good down there and he's shown that potential. So right now I would have the Nuggets, I guess, second, but ultimately you can throw a blanket over the rest of the Western Conference teams. The Lakers are just far too good. They're healthy. They're fresh. They've got a deep bench. They're well coached. They've got all the ingredients to certainly go back to back as we sit here right now.
Would you bet, though, on the Lakers to have the number one seed in the Western Conference, Taz? Or Leigh or anyone? Yeah.
I mean, like saying, that LeBron knows that you don't need to have it. It's not a must thing for him. And other teams like the Nuggets and again, the Clippers, they really want to sort of, I think, send that message that they're serious and they could go for it. So I'm not convinced the Lakers will get it. But even when the Lakers are going at 80%, I can't see them finishing any lower than the second best seed in the West. You
agree, Taz?
Well, last year, the Clippers finished 3.5 games behind the Lakers, and Paul George was coming off shoulder surgery. I think Kawhi and Paul George played 32 games together going into the bubble. It was a real low number. And the focus this year is going to be, hey, don't screw around. Let's get this together from the get-go. Right. And LeBron and AD, they're sitting out preseason games at this point. Kawhi and Paul George are playing. So the Lakers are definitely the best team. But I think Clippers have, a legitimate shot here at taking the number one seed for sure.
They should have that chip on their shoulder. I can't wait till we start calling them the LA Chippers. You can see it coming. I know what's happening. Give me 2 months and we'll be calling them the LA Chippers. I agree with you guys. I mean, it feels like the Lakers got by and far better than most of these other teams. Like you just went through with all these squads. So I won't repeat what you guys said. I will say sort of like a wild card pick for me. If I had to like really squint and really search for another team that could put some fear into some of these teams at the top, was a team, that was there in the playoffs last year as an 8 seed sneaking in the Portland Trailblazers, but were much better than an 8 seed. I mean, this was the thing because they were injured all year. I liked what they did in the offseason too, traded for an elite 3-and-D guy in Robert Covington. That's big. You're going to need a guy like that to put on the Kawhis and to put on the LeBrons and stuff like that. Signed Derrick Jones Jr. for 2 years, $19 million. Okay. Re-signed Rodney Hood, who prior to his injury was actually pretty solid for them. Cantor's in to replace Whiteside. Your team's always going to get better when Whiteside leaves. Everybody knows that.
Cantor defense.
And they re-signed Carmelo Anthony for the 1-year vet minimum. So I like those moves. And, Damian Lillard is still incredible. Like, I was blown away when I went and looked at Damian Lillard's basketball reference page. I'm like, I forgot Lillard averaged 30 points per game last year. And 8 assists, and, the 4 boards, like unbelievable numbers. Like, that's crazy. And I don't know why it's sort of like glossed over me or washed over me. But he's incredible. We know that. You still got McCollum. You got a damn good team if they're all healthy. So I think they're going to be much better, obviously, if everybody stays healthy than they were in 8 seed. And I think they could be challenging some of these other squads that you guys mentioned. Though Hollinger pointed out he's doing great team previews. The one thing they didn't do was sign a backup point guard. And, that feels like a minor thing, but they don't have one because they're still banking on Simmons being that guy who was really, really bad in that role in 1920. He was rough. So he'll be a third-year guy now, so maybe he's improved. But I like what the Blazers did. When they still have Lillard, you guys still got a star and all those other pieces. Yeah, I could talk myself into them taking down one of these teams. But I'm going to need to get some stops, and luckily they got some guys to help them play a little bit better defense. Before we move on, though, Trey, I got to set you up with this one. This is a bit of a softball. What do you think of the Paul George extension?
Look, Skeets, last year after the Clippers flamed out of the playoffs, blowing a 3-1 lead to a team that everybody thought they were going to beat, I took an oath and said, I'm not hating on Paul George when the next season comes around. So I got to just say an incredible deal for him to get all that money as the premier 3-and-D guard in the NBA.
Yeah,
you can lock in a 3-and-D guy for 5 years at a supermax, a contract that basically every team has regretted thus far after signing him. You got to do it.
Tass, I saw you tweeting about the Paul George extension. I mean, you were sort of taking the stance of this is nothing new. You have to do this if you're the Clippers after trading away so many guys to get him and pairing him with Kawhi, right? Like that the extension was inevitable.
Most teams, I think, do it, despite him having a bad playoffs. But if Kawhi leaves, then it looks terrible. And if Kawhi stays, then it's probably going to look pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Leigh, anything to add to that?
Well, I saw someone tweeting, and I can't remember who it was, but it was a respected Twitterer saying that the Clippers actually tested the waters on trading him before signing him to that contract, which was interesting. That would have just been blown up. We would have had another emergency pot if Paul George gets traded. So interesting that the Clippers just thought, I wonder what his value is. Well, let's just lock him up, keep it as an asset, because as you're saying, if he was a free, he potentially could have left after this season for nothing. So now they're like, all right, we just got to keep hold of this guy because at his best, he's a very, very good player, but he wasn't at his best down in the bubble.
All right, next question here in our burning question season preview series. Toughest team to predict. This is always a fun question. Trey, why don't you get us started? Who are you just struggling to wrap your head around?
How good are the Brooklyn Nets going to be? That's the question to me. If you said in 2019, you got Kevin Durant, you got Kyrie Irving, you've got all the great role players the Nets have, that's a title contender right there. But in reality, we got Kevin Durant coming off a major injury. We got Kyrie Irving coming off his own surgery and obviously making waves with his takes off the court. The continuity, the chemistry, the culture that was there in Brooklyn that lured KD and Kyrie, gone. They're just a super team now. Also, it's pretty possible that this isn't their team in 3 months. This could not be their team in 3 weeks. We have no idea what the Nets are going to look like come playoff time. I honestly thought we were going to be doing an emergency podcast for James Harden being traded there the day after we did the one for Russell Westbrook going to the Wizards. I think the Nets are going to be great. To me, they're probably going to be the best team in the Eastern Conference if they can get on the same page, which looks like it's going to be a problem at some points. But even when they're not on the same page, they're still going to be pretty good. It's just preseason, but KD looked great. Kyrie looked great. And those are two walking buckets right there. Those guys are ambulatory waste baskets. You can get some hoops. They're going to score. Will they be good enough defensively? I don't know. But when you've got Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert attacking the third and fourth best defender, you're in a good spot, at least offensively. They've got 15 head coaches plus another 4 head coaches on the bench. I think they're going to be good, but it could all end up being a disaster with the way Kyrie and KD have been off the court. Maybe the chemistry is a huge problem. They just did that Instagram live, and it was impossible to tell. Does Kyrie Irving really want to post up 10 times a game? Is that what the Nets want? Their point guard running the post up when they've got a 7-foot scoring machine on the wing too? I don't know, but I cannot wait to see.
Kevin Durant looked a little uncomfortable in that Instagram live, if you ask me. When Kyrie was saying he was him in a former life, kind of like, what are we doing here, man? This is live. Everyone's watching this right now. So, yeah, but it's a good pick because of that. I think on the court, there's no question the talent is there. But Kyrie has brought attention to that team already by calling media porn, saying he's not going to do media this year. That's the hill that he's going to die on. Media
what?
Pawns.
Oh, pawns.
Yeah. Porn.
I
thought you said media porn, but
the thing is, Kyrie is not going to win this battle with the media. He's going to lose that battle. So the quicker that he sort of gets over that and starts doing his media, the better for the team, because ultimately it's a very selfish thing that he's doing by saying, I'm not talking to media, because all that means is his teammates are going to get asked all the questions. His coaching staff is going to get asked that question time again. He's going to continue to get fined. The team will get fined. And ultimately, I think the NBA will just suspend him if he doesn't do it. So that's something that I don't think that team wants going into this season. I think they want to start as fresh as possible. And so they probably want Kyrie to get over that as quickly as he can and just focus on the basketball.
Okay. What do you think of that there, Taz? Will Kyrie just get over it?
Yeah. He didn't after game 1 of the preseason. He didn't answer any questions. I wonder if it's, I don't know, it's kind of lessened because they're not doing media in person. So it's guys just going up and sitting on a chair in front of a camera. So I think the effect of Kyrie not doing it is lessened upon his teammates. I think his teammates would hate it more if they're in a locker room and Kyrie just showers and gets out of there real quick. But yeah, I definitely wonder what happens when they're on a losing streak and Kyrie's not doing interviews. And I also wonder if the NBA is going to continue to find him. They've only fined him once, and that was on media day. He didn't do media after game 1 of the preseason. Is it going to be 25K after 25K after 25K? Are they going to count IG Live as media days? I think he's going to get hit every single time, and I don't think he's coming back for this season. Why would he come back? It feels weird.
Because they'll suspend him if he doesn't. I think there's no way the NBA is just going to keep fining him like 25 grand. I think those fines will escalate because it's in his contract for one. The NBA just simply doesn't allow people to, especially a star player, to say, okay, that's fine. Because if he does it, then other players will start doing it as well. Damian Lillard wants him to do his media, so his peers want him to do the media, and it's just something that the NBA will not tolerate. There's no question about it. So I think if he doesn't do it, the fines will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they'll just say, all right, we're going to suspend you until you do it. That's my belief anyway.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't said anything after game 1 of the preseason, though. That leads me to believe that it's just kind of up in the air. They don't know what to do with this unprecedented situation right now where a guy says, hey, I'm playing chess. I love the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, he's been watching a lot of Queen's Gambit. That was obvious, yeah. For sure, calling everybody playing. Why doesn't he just do like the classic, Marshawn Lynch? Like just show up and say, no comment to every question.
Here's so I don't get fined.
Yeah, here's so I don't get exactly.
Marshawn said. That's probably what'll happen. I don't know, though. I mean, Magic Johnson did a press boycott once, and that guy's a legend, Right. There have been players who have decided not to talk to the media. I also don't think Kyrie necessarily will keep that same energy for the entire season. Like you're saying, Leigh, once the fines start coming down, eventually you can just show up just to show up. But can you blame him? Nobody likes sitting on Zoom for hours and hours at a time. The guy goes out, has his job, then he's got to go back on Zoom. It sucks.
Oh, come on. I know you're a Kyrie fan. I know you're one of the kings. You're not a pawn because he talks to you and he respects you. But
there's four people in the media he likes, and they're all on this podcast.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, let's extend the offer out there then. If Kyrie wants to come on, no dunks, we can do late night shows. We'll do the classic bring back the bubble wrap basically. JD, you're not going to like to hear this, but we'll have Kyrie on and we'll ask him the questions. Maybe because we're the only media he trusts, apparently. Yeah, this is crazy. But that's a great pick, the Nets. I'm with you. I mean, look, I got pretty excited having Kevin Durant back. I don't care if it's just preseason basketball, and Kyrie and Steph Curry. Like, watching these guys again, you're like, yeah, this is fun. And KD especially, he looks solid. They're playing the Wizards. I get it. In preseason basketball, doesn't any of it really matter? No, I don't really put too much stock into it. But he's moving well, and obviously looked fairly explosive. And why would the jumper leave him? That's not going anywhere. That little turn and face and splash, and then you had Sarah Kustok going, woo, woo. Yeah, that'd be fun. Getting to watch Kevin Durant here for a full season if you're Kustok. So, yeah, that's a good pick. Who you got, Tass, as a tough team to predict? Or are you going also with the Nets?
No, the Nets are a great one. I do want to see Kyrie in the post, and he did run one of those plays yesterday where he just scoops right in and the defender's way behind him. So it wasn't like a traditional post play, but we're going to see Kyrie and KD and all those coaches run some clever stuff. It's going to be a blast watching those guys. I don't want this to be Kevin Durant's older phase yesterday, and maybe just it's because he's balding, but I was watching him and he looks so athletic and so freakish, and and he's 32 and he's been through so much. I just don't want this to be the older phase of Kevin Durant's career, but he's just freaking amazing. So it's not that part, when you get to a guy's older career and he's moving just a tiny bit slower and he's operating more in the post, but I think they have a legitimate shot to win the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
There's just too much talent on there, and they came together for a reason, and they have been chomping at the bit. It was cool to see Kevin Durant say, "I felt nervous out there because he signed a year and a half ago and he hasn't been able to play." They're great. Another team that's great that could be also on the sort of borderline playoff bubble in the Western Conference, I think, are the Dallas Mavericks. Luka could carry this team to a top 4 seed, no question. But they're not that deep in the front court, especially with Kristaps Porzingis being injured to start the season. Dwight Powell and then Willie Cauley-Stein are going to have to carry the load, and Dwight Powell coming off an injury himself. Will Willie Cauley-Stein have to play a ton of minutes? And then on the wings, they got a bunch of guys that sort of make sense around Luka. They're hard-nosed 3-and-D guys, James Johnson, Wes Iwundu, Dorian Finney-Smith, but not that deep in the talent and offensive talent department. And then the ball handlers, maybe Josh Richardson coming over from Philly can work with Luka, not having to be a ball handler like he was in Philadelphia. Sure. Seth Curry's gone though, and then you got Jalen Brunson and Tim Hardaway. So if Kristaps Porzingis is out, it does fall out a lot on him. If he's out for an extended period of time in that tough West, where they have kept the powder dry basically for the free agency crop in 2021 here. They've got max room. They didn't go out and spend a ton of money. Maybe it's for Giannis or whoever. The West is tough. OKC is out as a playoff team, but the 12, 13, 14 teams that are projected to land in those spots, like Sacramento, Spurs, Minnesota, they could still make the playoffs. A couple of those teams, like, it is going to be hard for the Dallas Mavericks. And so I would put them in that pretty big range. I wouldn't be crazy to see them miss the playoffs. Although they were a 7th seed last year and they played a lot better than that. But everyone's going to be ready for the Dallas Mavericks this season.
Yeah, there were, I forget who it was specifically, but there was one NBA pundit saying that the Mavericks were not going to make the playoffs. So they're somewhat agreeing with you, like sort of that spectrum there, Tass, of like, no, you could see them being top 3. Luka goes to even another level and is winning MVPs, and who knows? They're still one of the best offensive teams we've ever seen in history. Or, maybe they take a step back here and are fighting at least to get into the playoffs. I can see it. I see where you're going there. What do you got, Leigh? What team's tough to predict for you?
Well, team we've kind of forgotten about is the Warriors coming in now, because obviously losing Klay Thompson to that Achilles injury was a major blow to them. Last season, of course, Draymond was very, very bad. He didn't look good. Steph Curry missed, 8 weeks or something with a broken finger. The Warriors just kind of mailed it in by the end of the last season. So coming back now, everyone was healthy until a couple of weeks ago when they lost Klay. And you just wonder now, where are the Warriors in the Western Conference? Are they a legit contender today? I don't think so. I think they're better than they were last season. But missing Clay is going to be a big blow. Now they've got Kelly Oubre who's come in. He's certainly no replacement for Clay, but he's a replacement player. But obviously as well, the big question for the Warriors is what will they get out of Andrew Wiggins this season? Wiggins is looking great. He's been jacked up. He's been in the gym. He's been working out. And he's had obviously a lot of time, I think, to sort of at least acclimatize now to the Warriors and what they expect from him. I think they're working very hard to try to get the best out of him. But what is the best of Andrew Wiggins? What is he? Is he a guy who can be consistent, give you 20, 25?
No, I'll tell you the best. It's like 5 or 6 weeks of lights out 3-point shooting, 25 per game. You're talking yourself into them. You're buying a Subway sandwich shop on an island somewhere. You're getting people to fly in. You're building some real estate. But then it all blows up in your face. You can't put it together for really a full season.
Yeah. And that's the challenge for the Warriors, because it's like if they can get him to play consistent, I can see a scenario where he would lead that team in scoring simply because he's so athletic, he's so quick, and I could see him getting 27, 28 a game. I mean, Steph obviously.
You're crazy for this one, Leigh.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
Curry is going to always score more than Wiggins.
I can just envision a scenario. That's where Wiggins is at his best, right? Listen, we like to run, we like to shoot threes. Just go out and do that. That's what you're going to do. So I can see a scenario where that's happening, but I can also see, as we know from Wiggins from his years, he can go weeks where you're just like, okay, where the hell is this guy? But
you can envision a scenario where Kelly Oubre Jr. is much
taking his minutes. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like his career, Wiggins is at the crossroads already as far as like, is he going to be labeled a bust or actually a guy who was just a late bloomer? And so far, he's leaning closer towards bust, but this is a great situation for him, I think, there, because they, especially again with the Klay Thompson injury, there's going to be so many more shots and scoring opportunities for Andrew Wiggins. So we'll see. Maybe it's just that, I saw him on Instagram the other day, jacked, and I'm like,
all right, jacked for sure.
Yeah. But he was one of those guys, because he was always so thin, a little bit of muscle just makes him look huge. So, anyway, I'm excited to see. I just, again, the Warriors, are they a legit contender? I would say not right now, but they have got some very intriguing pieces on that roster.
Okay. I've got a few teams I'll throw out here, but first, I mean, when you're talking about the toughest team to predict, the elephant in the room with all of this is like, how severely is COVID going to affect these teams and the state of play, right? I mean, who's to say multiple players on a team, they test positive and that could lead to obviously their season being blown up, the postponement of games, like who knows? So I think some players have been talking about like, which team is going to do the best of like beating the virus? That could be pretty instrumental in a team's success. And it's sort of true. But team-wise, tough to predict. The Rockets have to be in the mix for me because everything hinges on James Harden. I know we'll eventually get here to talking about star players being traded, and I'm sure we'll do a deep dive on that possibility. But like, if James Harden is still on your team, then your team is pretty damn good. I mean, that's just the way it is. He's that elite. So if he's there and he does suit up for them in regular season games alongside John Wall, who's back, looks good in preseason, hasn't played a real regular season game in like 23 months. Cousins coming off, torn Achilles and torn quads and torn ACLs and all that. And then everybody thinks Christian Wood's the next best big thing. Like, could be a good team, like still a decent team, but who knows? I mean, these guys could get re-injured. Obviously, Harden could get traded and they could be like, sort of tanking in a way. So that's a tough one. And then I'll say the Sixers, I think they're going to be good, but we're just going to still be asking, can you build a championship contender around Embiid and Simmons? I've liked a lot of the pieces that they've added, obviously trying to get some more shooting in there, especially Seth Curry. I like it, but it's still to me a big question mark. I could see them being the best team in the East going to the finals. And I also could see them losing in the first round super easily, depending on a matchup or something like that and what you're getting from Embiid and Simmons. So they're a fun team to watch. Any other teams that are tough to predict before we move on?
What about those Tampa A Raptors? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I have a question for you with that, Tass. Do you think it will be a major disadvantage, or is it quite possibly an advantage having to obviously not play in Toronto, to play in Tampa, be apart for the most part from your family and the comforts of home? Like, you could see why it'd be an obvious disadvantage. Like, well, geez, everybody else is like sleeping in their own bed. But, devil's advocate is like, maybe it's an advantage. It's that, again, a bonding of some sort. Like, you're in it together. You're in this weird situation as a squad. And maybe that makes them, play better together and the locker room is better. I don't know. What do you think? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth, but I don't think it's neither an advantage or a disadvantage. It's not really that much of a bonding atmosphere. It's not like you're playing on the road. You still are sleeping in your own beds. You're not traveling together to Tampa. It is your sort of your home base. So I think that kind of goes out the window. Everybody doesn't have fans in their arenas. Generally, we'll see what happens. The Warriors are paying $30 million to get some fans in there, but I think that's not in a disadvantage, right? So I don't think it plays either way, really. I know guys generally go down to Orlando and then Miami when they have 2 games back to back, and people have some fun down there. So does Tampa get thrown in that mix? I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the schedules. Like maybe you go down to Tampa and you're a little gassed because you've played in Orlando and Miami, and that's not a good mix for 3 games and 4 nights. Say that again.
It's party at Busch Gardens.
yeah. I mean, you go to Miami, you're tired, then you go to Tampa. So that's where it comes into effect. Yeah. Not a lot of partying happening in Tampa unless JD knows a spot. I've been down there. Everybody just gets the heck out of Tampa. You're not partying at that ugly baseball stadium. No offense, but that stadium is ugly.
Yeah, you got to go to St. Pete's, man. It's not Tampa. It's down the road, just down the beach.
Yeah,
but we're joking.
But it's not a party town
would you rather
let's not put St. Pete's in that category.
Not at all.
Would you rather be in Tampa Bay during December, January, February, or in Toronto, JD? The worst possible months you could ever be in that city.
Tampa Bay. Although it's not a good time to ask me because I haven't been home in a year.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
but still, I'd probably pick Tampa Bay. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you're wearing shorts today. It's so beautiful.
Oh yeah,
Probably got flurries up there in the 6 right now.
All right.
Tyler's
playing golf right now. So is that an advantage? Is he feeling good? I don't know.
Well, we will see. Trey, do you have an opinion on this? Is it an advantage or disadvantage having to play in Tampa?
I think it's a huge disadvantage because there's no way we're going to be getting any scarf content from the Raptors this year. Serge Ibaka is gone. They're playing in a warm climate. I feel like they united around the scarves last year. What are they going to do for accessories in the 2021 season? Only time will tell.
Yeah. Leigh, anything to add to this? What do you think, man?
I don't think it's great. I think they would be better off being in their own city, in their own houses and stuff like that. I think it will catch up to them the longer the season goes on. So I think a disadvantage for me.
What about teams generally hated crossing the border, having to pull out their passports going through customs? Don't have to do that anymore.
That's right, man. I'm telling you, it could be an advantage. The Tampa Bay Raptors. You can buy some fantastic bootleg merchandise too, by the way. You guys see there was I forget the person's name, but incredible job mocking up a Tampa Raptors jersey. It's like pink, and the Raptor little logo's got shades on. I mean, it's really well done. So go search for that. All right, our next question here. I sort of alluded to it. Which star player is most likely to be traded? Leigh, get us started. Is it James Harden? Is that the obvious answer, or do you got someone else?
Well, before I get into that, I just want to say right now, I have 2 trade machine tabs open on my computer right now.
Oh my God, this guy has changed, man.
I might be coming around on the trade machine. I might be coming around on it. The one thing is, whenever you put in a trade, it's only players for players, right? You can't add those sweeteners like draft picks and future assets and things like that. So, it's a little bit, it leaves you a little bit short. You have to go to other places to see what sort of draft assets teams have, like the real GM future detailed drafts, which is great. So anyway, I've got 2 here for you guys. I'll throw them out there and then you can pick which one you want to do. Let's start with the most obvious one here, James Harden. I think it's a matter of time before he gets traded. I was thinking he was going to the Brooklyn Nets, but I actually think that's less likely now. I think the Nets, the way Steve Nash has spoken, I think he actually looks at this team and he goes, Kevin and Kyrie, they need the ball. These guys are going to be scoring. They need the ball. We need periphery pieces around those guys, which I think they like right now. I think adding James Harden, while he's clearly a talented player, they would give up a lot of their depth for another guy who needs the ball. So I think as we sit here today, I think the Nets are like, let's just hold back. We don't need him right now. So what I saw as well from Mark Stein, one of the most respected reporters out there, saying last week on a tweet that the Philadelphia 76ers, for now, he said, are not going to include Ben Simmons in a trade. And the Houston Rockets are saying, well, we're not interested in trading James Harden for now. Right. Now, the fact that Mark Stein is reporting that tells me that there is a little bit of smoke there. And clearly the Daryl Morey connection there in Philadelphia now coming from Houston makes me believe that that might happen now. That's starting to happen. Because, again, let's look at it first from the Rockets standpoint. They want talented players back. and they want some draft compensation and things like that. Now, Ben Simmons, a young star player, so you sort of tick that off. Now, he's not James Harden, but he's a star player.
You're not going to do better than that.
No, exactly. I think he's like, okay, that's the big piece that we want. Then you need some filler around it. Now, Danny Green would work just to make the contracts work, according to the trade machine. That works right there. And now, then you have to look at what else Philadelphia can offer. And let me just bring it up here because the Sixers, they have a first-round pick in 2022, but they've also given up their 21 and 23, I believe it is. So I don't think you can give up all those. So they would have to find another way to make it happen. But Daryl Morey, we know, is one of the most creative GMs out there. So I think Daryl Morey will figure out a way to make it happen. I think he's basically just going to wait and see if the Rockets are prepared to do that. Because I think if you're Daryl Morey, again, he came in, he didn't want to make that big splash for trading one of their big stars at the start. But now I just think when you look at it, Harden and Embiid probably does work a little bit better than Ben Simmons and Embiid, because the big problem is Ben Simmons can't spread the floor with his shooting. Obviously, James Harden can. James Harden can run that pick and roll with Joel Embiid. Now, he's a little bit older.
The counter to all this is Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, when playing together, have been actually pretty damn good.
I know that. I know that.
Else around them, yeah.
But I'm just thinking, I just think the problem though with Simmons and Embiid at times is that congestion as well on offense, where where Embiid likes to spread the floor by shooting threes. He's not a great 3-point shooter, whereas Simmons should be the one doing that, and he hasn't been able to do that. So I'm starting to think that if Harden gets traded, and he wants to go to an Eastern Conference, or the Rockets want to send him to an Eastern Conference team, I believe. I think that's the destination best suited for him there. There was talk he wanted to go to Milwaukee, which would be hilarious if he and Giannis teamed up. I don't think that's happening. You can throw out other teams, the Raptors. He's not going to the Raptors, of course, like that. Charlotte, those sort of teams. Miami. Yeah, he's not going anywhere there. So I think it's down to Brooklyn and Philadelphia. Yeah. And I think as we sit here today, I think Philadelphia with Daryl Morey there, he's the puppet master. He's going to make something happen. So that's my first one.
Okay.
Did you say the trade? What's the trade?
Well, the trade essentially is Danny Green and Ben Simmons for James Harden to make the salaries work, and then the Sixers will find that draft compensation as well, like a first down the line. So that's the part of it again that I'm not quite exactly sure how deep they can go as far as giving up first round picks, but Daryl Morey will find one somewhere.
Right.
I saw on Instagram that Daryl Morey said Ben Simmons has a chance at winning MVP this year, mate.
Got to talk up that trade value. Just like Drew Holiday, that's what David Griffin did.
Yeah, he must have known Leigh logged onto the trade team for the third time ever. He's like, I'm going to juice this up. And this guy looks at the trade assets of every team in the NBA.
Well, I mean, according to the trade machine right now, the 76ers wins improve by 7 and the Sixers lose by 12. But that's the Rockets lose by 12, have 12 fewer wins. But that's okay for where the Rockets are right now. So, I think there's something there. Anyway, the second one, and this one is one I think when I answering this question, I thought we're going to talk about James Harden, so let's try to find another one. And I want to see the Dallas Mavericks. Tass, you sort of spoke about them then. And the thing is, if you're the Mavericks, I think right now they have to be somewhat concerned about the long-term durability of Porzingis. He missed time in the bubble. He's obviously already blown out an ACL, and he's going to miss the start of this season. He's a very good player, but he's so young and he's had some big injuries so far. Now, they gave him a big fat contract. They think he could be the piece there next to Luka. But the problem is, if he continues to have these problems just staying on the court, the clock is not ticking on the Mavericks with Luka yet. But I think they also want to show him we're going to try to compete as often as we can for a championship while Luka's this good. So I think there's a deal to be made there with the Washington Wizards to get Bradley Beal. And I think Beal would be a really nice fit there next to Luka because he can play off the ball. He can also play as the sort of distributor, offensive lead man when Luka's sitting if necessary. And I think he's just an upgrade on those guys like a Tim Hardaway Jr., a little bit too sporadic still. And Maxi Kleber would work in this deal according to the trade machine. It's great. Kleber's a good player, but again, Beal is an all-star. Beal's an all-NBA caliber player. I think he's an improvement for what they have right now. And he's also just a little bit of an insurance policy for them with Porzingis. That's another legit star to put next to Luka Doncic to show, hey, we're not waiting. We're not gonna give this a couple of years if things aren't working out. We want a superstar next to you. And I think Beal fits that bill. Beal. So that's and look, the Wizards, they traded obviously for Russell Westbrook, but let's be honest, the Wizards, they're looking to the future right now. They're not competing for a championship right now. They're
competing for the playoffs, baby.
That's it. That's where they are right now. Bradley Beal can give you some draft assets as well. That's the other thing. Sorry, I forgot to mention there. The Mavericks would also.
Hey, next time you get a trade, just say the trade right off the.
Well, but see, I don't think Hardaway and Kleber get it done. I think the Mavericks also say we'll give you a first round pick, but they gave up a pick, of course, for Porzingis a few years ago, 2 first rounds, in fact, which they're starting to have to cash in on now. So yeah, that's where I would like to see Beal go. I'd like to see him go to a team that's got a better future than the Wizards have right now. I think it's a good match with Luka Doncic, and I think that's something that could happen.
Okay. I mean, you really just want Beal on a different team because you love Bradley Beal, you love Luka, you're a big Mark Cuban Shark Tank fan, so get him there. I get where you're going. Then we'll bring Manu Ginobili out of retirement. We'll throw him on the squad. I'm sure there's an Aussie or two that we can put on the team.
Well, Josh Green is already on the Mavericks as well.
Right.
Greeny.
But they might have to give him back to the Wizards in the trade. That's one thing.
Okay. Well, we're not going to be calling you the trade machine Picasso yet, so I'll tell you that. More of
you'd be proud of me, man.
Playing with crayons right now.
I thought you'd be proud of me, though, having 2 tabs open right now. And I'm working it. I am working the trade machine.
Hey, very proud of you. I mean, Woj was reporting here this morning, I think it was, Tass, that Harden still wants to be traded from the Rockets, despite, John Wall playing in preseason games and looking all right. Like, his plan hasn't changed. He still wants out of there. I assume it is one of those 4 teams that he's previously mentioned. So do you have a trade in mind for Harden, or is there another star player that you think could be on the move? What do you think?
Well, let me first echo Gustavo's comments here in the tweet stream. He just said, did he say the trade?
See?
But anyways, proud of Leigh for jumping on that trade machine. I don't have one. I think James Harden is going to have to expand his desired trade destinations before he's dealt. I don't see a match in Milwaukee or Philadelphia. I just don't see that happening. I don't see Ben moving. At this point, with the Sixers, they did a lot of gymnastics to open up some cap room by trading Al Horford. It was a great move. I just don't see them locking in with a guy who's 30 plus at this point to trade Ben Simmons. You got to see what you got in Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid with shooters around them, as they now have with Seth Curry and Danny Green and Tobias Harris and Shake Milton. I think that's going to happen. I think James is going to have to expand that a little bit. But hey, I'm looking forward to the day we jump on here and do an emergency podcast, because it sure feels like it's going to happen. James Harden is showing up today with PJ Tucker to Houston camp, and they're going to talk about playing basketball, but it's just weird. I mean, it's weird. It's a weird situation to have all these guys who, as the Athletic reporting, Kelly Eco reported, just are not happy to join DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall, who seem to be happy. I'm not sure how that all shakes out. Looking forward to that, though.
Let me give you this trade proposal. This one is from Twitter fan, no Doug's fan by way of Twitter, Carl Brannigan. And he threw this one out here because Woj was saying the Rockets want, like you said it, Leigh, they want a young star player, and preferably probably some picks too, to build for the future. And that if they were trading with the Nets, they have no interest in Kyrie Irving, so there's not going to be an Irving for Harden type of deal. And they're not all that interested in the Nets sort of young package that they could put together, which you've talked about before, Leigh, that you think is sort of enticing, but apparently the Rockets don't, right? They don't look at Karis LeVert or a Dinwiddie or an Allen, I guess, or something like they're not all excited about one of those guys being like a future star. So Kyle throws out this 3-team deal because Woj also said maybe the Nets would have to get a 3rd team involved, find that young star player, and reroute him to Houston. Kyle's maybe done it here. I'll throw it at you. This is how I'll present it. The Brooklyn Nets, they get James Harden in this scenario. The Houston Rockets, they would get Gary Harris, Taurean Prince, and Michael Porter Jr. Okay, so you got a couple Nuggets coming, Michael Porter Jr. being the star, the potential star for the future, and then Prince is in there and Harris. And then the Nuggets would get Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie. Trey? What do you think of Kyle's trade machine 3-team deal there? If Harden, was in play for the Brooklyn Nets to get, does that make a little sense, at least from the Rocket side of things? Is it perplexing to you for the Nuggets side of things? Like, what do you think about that one?
I think it's perplexing from the Nuggets' point of view. I don't think that they would necessarily want to give up a young guy that they have high hopes for in Michael Porter Jr. to get Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie, who are both very solid players. They've been, each of them, fringe all-star candidates in the Eastern Conference. I don't think that is necessarily where the Nuggets are setting their sights with their third star, though. They want somebody who's going to be a regular as an all-star appearance kind of guy alongside Jokic and hopefully Murray, probably an all-star at some point in his career as well, too. I do think it's a better return for the Rockets. You would rather get Michael Porter Jr. Than Dinwiddie and LeVert for the same reason that the Nuggets would like to keep those guys around it as well, right? Like you want the younger, better guy, which is exactly what the Rockets are trying to do here, but they're not going to get good return for James Harden because James Harden is an MVP candidate. So they're going to be choosing between these okay young players who they hope can get to a level less than James Harden, and they're hoping they can get a few more assets as well to try and rebuild things. Maybe John Wall looks good again. He was fine in his first preseason game, lighting up the Bulls, but maybe then they're able to move him in the future as well, too, and continue to just re-add all of the draft assets that they have lost with the Chris Paul, with the Russell Westbrook trades, all of the stuff that has kind of jeopardized the Rockets' future and made James Harden want to leave. I just think that there's no way he plays the whole season there, Harden, because this past week and a half has been a disaster for the Rockets. And we haven't even started the season yet. You really want to go into it where these guys are appearing in front of the media every single day saying how much they hate your team and your owner? No, thank you.
Yeah. Is there any other star players that could be moved, Tass, in your opinion?
I do like Beal being on the horizon of guys that get moved, because I think twice it seems like, Beal is going to be in Washington for a long time. When he signed that quote-unquote extension, it was really just a 1 year plus an option. And now Russell Westbrook coming in, it feels like, they're going for it, but maybe it's not as early as the trade deadline. Maybe it's in the offseason or next trade deadline, but I don't think it's a long-term solution to have Russ playing together with Bradley Beal. Although, as an experiment, I'm willing to watch those two and Isaac Bonga and Rui Hachimura, who I've got a thing for, and Mo Wagner and all these guys. It will be fun to watch all these guys play together, but I do see Beal on the horizon getting moved. A guy that we've talked about a billion times getting moved, Aaron Gordon, just feels like it's time to go from Orlando. It's year 7 for him. The hair is out. He's looking fine with the new hairdo. It doesn't feel right. Every time I watch an Orlando Magic game, it feels like Aaron Gordon's going to try and turn it on and try and have a big game, but he really has to get to a point in his career where he is more of a complimentary guy, more of a defensive guy, and not the number one option at the very least. So I think it has to happen at some point, right? Yeah. So it doesn't feel like a long-term set there. And Al Horford as well in OKC, and Derrick Rose in Detroit, got to cash in on him while he's under contract and playing at his best. It doesn't fit for the Pistons to continue on with Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin, who also looks fantastic in preseason basketball.
Everybody's looking fantastic. Trey, are there any other names that you'd add to Tass's solid list there?
I'm a little curious what's going on with Rudy Gobert and the Jazz. He's going to be a free agent after this season. He's eligible for a super max extension. He's still probably the best rim protector in the league, but as we've seen with the Jazz, that format seems like it can only take them so far. They haven't been able to pop to the next level to become an elite team quite yet. This summer or early fall, this offseason, they brought back Derek Favors. They drafted another center. So you just have to think, are they considering the idea of maybe moving Gobert for somebody around the trade deadline? He would be a guy that would be in huge demand around the league, even if you're only getting him for the rest of the season. That's the kind of guy that can swing a title if all you're missing is a big guy. No doubt about it. But he's also been a Jazz for the entirety of his career. He seems like a mainstay there. I would imagine somehow they find a deal for him to come back at less than the max. But if he has his heart set on the max, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could be a trade target.
Fair. All right. We got to take a break. Man, we are running long here for our first show of our second season, No Dunks. But let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors.
So did you guys see this morning that Gmail and YouTube went down, at least certainly on the East Coast here in the USA?
Oh, it was all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they're back up now. But for a while, people started panicking. They didn't know what to do. And I know that feeling, because I would feel that way if I ever lost Grammarly from my computer, because I've become so accustomed to it. I'm not sure I could compose a message or a note anymore without it, because you sort of...
You sure as hell can't offer up a trade package. I'll tell you that.
I'd be like Tom Hanks in Castaway, just alone on an island having to fend for myself. But look, he survives in the end, and I would too. that it wouldn't be pretty. Remember how shaggy and scraggy and pale and thin he looked? Lost, lifeless, lonely, laconically lazy, marooned on a lagoon. See, that poem was a little bit longer, but Grammarly helped me make it concise by cutting out unnecessary words and redundant words. And Grammarly Premium gives you real-time feedback and insights to help you elevate your writing through tone, word choice, clarity, and more. It also gives you real-time insights and guidance so that you can communicate clearly and confidently. You too can harness the power of Grammarly on every platform with their desktop editor, browser, plugin, and mobile apps, and improve your writing on all your favorite sites and apps. Outlook, Gmail, the big one, of course, this morning, Twitter, on those tweets. That's a big one on the Twitter now because, a typo, doesn't it kill you if you send out a tweet and it gets a little bit of traction and there's a damn typo in it?
I delete it. I don't care.
But don't you be like, what? I mean, do you then check to see if people sort of like re-engage to the same point?
No, yeah. I can't sleep at night if I know that tweet has a typo in it.
What about a punctuation error?
Oh, an issue for me. I mean, not as bad, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
but
it gets you though, doesn't it?
Oh, hell yeah, it does.
Yeah. So that's the thing now. It's like I can't really like compose it. I don't have Grammarly on my phone. I will say that. That's the thing. I can't put a tweet on my phone because I don't have it. I'm like, I can't send it out there. That's like going out in the nude to get the paper in the morning. You just can't do it. Anyway, you can elevate your writing with 20% off Grammarly Premium by signing up at grammarly.com/nodunks. That's 20% off Grammarly Premium at grammarly.com/nodunks.
Excellent. Yeah, a few things are as enjoyable, Leigh, seeing that little G in the corner when you're writing a tweet or, like you said, writing an email, and you write it and it pops up and says, "Man, you just killed it."
Yeah,
you just wrote the hell out of that. It's awesome.
And it says, looks appreciative if you send an email. So it's like, yeah, that's the right tone you're going for there. I just, it's that's the thing, man.
It is great.
Oh, the tone check is huge.
It's great.
Yeah. Smiley face down there, a little hug.
We love it. What do you got, TK?
Well, Skeets, it can be awkward or embarrassing to talk about erectile dysfunction. Usually we brush it off or blame ourselves or blame Leigh for talking about picking up the newspaper nude. But I just recently started a chronological rewatch of the MCU films, and Iron Man makes a performance issues joke to Loki in the first Avengers. If a superhero and a Norse god can laugh about it, so can you. That's why Roman is here to save the day and get you the advice you want and the help you need with no shame. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. A healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication's appropriate, Roman will ship you real medication with free 2-day shipping. They are your Jarvis, trying to make sure your arc reactor is producing enough energy, if you know what I mean. The whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet, and so is getting started. Just go to getroman.com/nodunks and complete an online visit today. That's getroman.com/nodunks to get $15 off your first order of ED treatment, a free online visit, and free 2-day shipping. That's getroman.com/nodunks.
Did Thanos ever get his hands on the semen stone?
Yeah, buddy.
All right. We got some fun questions here to end part 1 of our 5-part NBA season preview podcast. And this one, we're going to go to you here first, Trey. Best new jersey. We got so many new City Edition jerseys. What's your favorite one and why?
Oh, you got to hit up our Instagram or our Twitter at No Dunks Inc. You can see Skeets and I doing a review on every single one of these new City jerseys. There's a whole bunch of them. We've talked about a bunch of them on the show because it feels like they've been coming out for about 3 months now at this point. So we've all praised the Buzz City Hornets jersey. Here's one that we didn't show, I don't think. I love the new Spurs Fiesta look.
Yep.
Oh, this is so good, especially because it's a look that everybody associates with the Spurs, but we've never actually seen it on a jersey. They only did the warm-ups back in the day during the David Robinson, Sean Elliott, Dennis Rodman era, but everybody was hoping these would turn into uniforms. They finally did. The old school font that they had in the 90s, probably a little bit better than this one, but this still looks great. unlike a lot of the teams that came out with these new city jerseys, there's a reason for the Spurs to be wearing black uniforms. They wear black all the time, unlike the Knicks or a team like that. I don't know what they're doing. Nonetheless, I think these Spurs ones look great. They ran 5 guys out there to model them who nobody's ever seen before, and they still looked awesome. Shout out to the Spurs.
Yeah, I went with that as well, the Spurs Fiesta themed jerseys. It's also the first time I read that the team's hometown has been front on the center of the jersey since 1989. So it says San Antonio because it usually just says the Spurs. I hadn't realized that. But those are tasty. Those are very, very nice.
I too jumped in on this.
Wow.
I love these Fiesta jerseys. I'm surprised we didn't talk about them. Look how cool those guys looked, as Trey mentioned. I mean, the photographer did some incredible job here, or did an incredible job. Just the lighting makes it look super cool. Trey Lyles, you look cool. I think all these 5 young Spurs look fantastic, especially DeJounte Murray there in the front. He's making New Balance shoes look cool. He's got the matching New Balance shoes with the Fiesta. So sexy. I'm
liking that pose too. Just a rap squat, but with the hands open. You don't see the claw hands very often like that.
Yeah, no,
5 out. We're playing 5 out.
Okay, so we got 3 of us picking the Spurs. Leigh, what are you taking? Are you going with them as well?
They're pretty sexy. I'm going with the Phoenix Suns, though, the Valley jerseys. I think so, especially when you see them actually on the players like that. So I think they look so cool because I don't think we'd really seen them other than just the jersey itself being released. But now, obviously, you got their big 3 there modeling them. And, I think they look great. I think they really do. I like that the night, the sunset look that they've got going on. So, the Suns.
Okay. You don't think they're too much of sort of a rip-off of what we've seen from like sort of the Nuggets and I guess sort of the Jazz with the gradient?
Sort of, the Tetris-y sort of look there for the Nuggets and stuff, and the mountain look,
I guess. I'm just asking.
Yeah, it's the same sort of area though, isn't it? So
Wild West.
Yeah.
Close it up.
Yeah, you didn't invent mountains, Colorado.
Right.
Let us have some mountains.
Gotta share those mountains. Okay.
Yeah. And the Hornets and those Pacers ones also been going around with the pinstripes.
Oh, I like those.
So nice.
I was a fan of those. I mean, I did the Eastern Conference, like Trey said on our Instagram and Twitter accounts, like quick, like hitters, thumbs up, thumbs down. Trey did the West. And again, go check those out. I was not up on many of the Eastern Conference jerseys, in looking back on it. I was up on like a handful of them. A lot of them are not great, which brings us to our next question. What's the worst new City Edition jersey? Leigh, why don't you get a start? Which one are you like? I mean, again, there are a lot of bad ones. There are a lot to pick from, in my opinion. But what are you going with?
I'm going with the low-hanging fruit of the New York Knicks jerseys here because RJ Barrett even looks like he doesn't want to be there. You showed the San Antonio Spurs looking cool as anything there together, throwing out the rap pose. RJ Barrett's like, oh God, am I the one who has to? Am I the one who has to model these things? Like, no, thanks. Come on, quick, get this over and done with. So, City never sleeps.
I'm sleeping on those ones, no doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah, Leigh could never wear those. He's always sleeping.
Yeah, well, not when it's raining like it was last night. I'll definitely.
That's right. Except when you're up in the attic checking the shingles. All right, yeah, that's a good pick for worst New Jersey. Tass, what do you have?
I too went with that Knicks City edition.
Wow.
Totally. RJ Barrett, Mr. Michael Lee pointed the same thing out that Lee did on Twitter, saying, come on, I'm not happy here. The circle is it's too much. And I'm not even all that bothered by the sponsors on the front of a jersey, but even this Squarespace logo, it's just all up in your grill. I thought, back, if you can remember, back in 2017, when it was a pilot program for the league to have these patch jerseys 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches, we all wondered, what about our sacred jerseys? What's going to happen to our sacred jerseys? Now it's just a part of the jerseys, and it's not a big deal. There's a great write-up actually on The Athletic by Bill Shea about how much money is coming in, and they're expanding it to practice jerseys this year. It hasn't been obtrusive whatsoever, but maybe it's just because it's white on black. Maybe it's because of the location, maybe because there's an NYC, but this Squarespace is like, bang, it's too much. And maybe it's this, maybe it's because that circle is so big.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. I think it's because your eyes don't want to look at the actual logo. So you're like, well, let me look anywhere else. Oh, bam, Squarespace. Yeah, I think like the old classic NYC Nike logo would make for a better overall logo for the actual Knicks. They have it backwards here instead of this stupid circle with the city never sleeps and the dumb colorway I hate. This one's bad, Trey. I don't know if you have another one, but
Yeah, this one is really bad. The other one in the mix for the worst for me, Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Okay, I will agree that most people do know that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland. That seems to be the number one thing people know. But this looks like a ransom note. You have to know all of these logos. You have to know all of these band logos, like David Bowie's classic V.
Yeah,
his
I know.
name. Hey, is there any V's out there? Has there ever been a band with a V in their name? Sorry, just a guy named David. We're rolling that out there. Then you have to realize that these are actually that, and when it all comes together, it just looks brutal. None of these bands are even from Ohio. I do not get this.
It looks like at the end there they used Grammarly to spell the AND there. They had to squeeze the N in there. It's like, hang on, we spelled it Cleveland. Hang on, all right, put it through Grammarly. Yeah, it's Cleveland. All right, chuck an N in there. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's crazy.
You know what's worse? I couldn't believe it. I'm with you. These are brutal. Have you seen the court that goes along with them?
Oh, come on.
Oh, this is. I mean, they're trying. I guess what the Nets were doing there with the gray court, but like, you got like the little patches, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be like pins on a denim jacket.
Yeah. Not a fan of the rock and roll ransom note jerseys, no, nor the court. So those are high. I feel on like a lot of people's list. The Cavs and the Knicks. What are you doing? Guys? Let's hear from you, either in the stream team or tweet at us at NoDunksInc. Your favorite and your worst new City Edition jerseys. Which ones have we missed?
And I'm not sure why the Knicks didn't go with this jersey style here.
Yeah.
The sort of understated black. I don't even know what this jersey is, but somebody threw it out there. This kit.
It's a store in New York City. That's a big
But a
fancy
variation
store.
of that? Hell yeah. I mean, it's cool.
Sure.
I thought at first, I saw Kith was tweeting it. I don't know who you are, Kith, but okay, it's a store.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe there's Knicks within that KITH. I was looking, analyzing it. Maybe it's, sort of in there. No, it's KITH.
That does look better.
It looks way better.
All right. Again, let's hear from you guys. Favorite and least favorite jerseys from all those new City Edition ones. All right. Final question here for part one. Favorite moment, meme, whatever you want to call it, from the off season or even into the preseason task. Get us started. What was your favorite moment from the few weeks we had between the end of last season and then the start of this one?
Yeah, too short a period. So I just went with the No Dunks Twitter account producing some great memes. Trey Kirby producing some great memes. Threw this out there. They usually involve Leigh, and in this instance, it's the Pelicans City Edition jersey with the three sections on it, the red, white, and blue, and the fleur de lis, those flowers there. And so there's our flower, fleur de lis, hanging out for a photo shoot back in our starters days.
But Leigh would go on to wear that turtleneck at an All-Star weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
That was this year, right? That was 2020.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
It was Valentine's Day, putting on a very romantic turtleneck to hang out with the boys and eat some 2-hour pizza.
Those photo shoots we always used to do were so much fun, and you're always hoping you would get to keep some of the clothes. And I wanted to keep that jacket too. I love that jacket. I thought it was great. I love that fit. I thought it was great with the white pants and the skivvy, but or the turtleneck as it's called here. But
Skivvy.
Yeah.
That's underwear here, but turtleneck in Australia.
It's a skivvy. Yeah, it's a skivvy. That's what we would call it. I think it's an Australian England sort of thing, but turtleneck's fine.
Okay. Don't go out in your skivvies to get the newspaper. That's what I always say.
Do you have any other No Dunks memes there, Tass? I didn't know if you were setting up for.
No.
Okay.
That was my home run there.
Okay.
That wasn't my foul ball.
You knocked it out of the park, man, I'll tell you that. What do you got, Trey? Favorite moment or meme from the offseason / preseason?
Well, like Tess is saying, what kind of offseason did really have? We had 2 weeks. I liked catching a giant bass. That was my favorite moment of the offseason. Leigh's draft video was great, but as for an NBA sort of moment of the offseason, I think the thing that we'll remember the most is Bogdan Bogdanovic being a Buck for 20 minutes, and then he's not a Buck, and then now he's somehow on the Hawks. The Bucks had a pretty good offseason if they hadn't totally botched the Bogdan situation, because they did get the biggest target out there, right? And Jrue Holiday, a player that everybody thinks is going to improve their chances come playoff time. really raises their ceiling a little bit from Eric Bledsoe. Everybody thinks that's an improvement, but it looked like they were doing it at the exact same time as getting Bogdan. As it turned out, everybody botched that situation. Now Bogdan Bogdanovic is here in Atlanta playing for the Hawks. And you kind of forget that Jrue Holiday is going to be on the Bucks. Messing that deal up really overshadowed the one that they got right.
Right. And as of recording this here on Monday, Giannis still hasn't signed the Supermax extension too. Now, who knows if that, the botching of that deal has anything to do with it? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But yeah, that's a weird moment for sure from this very short offseason. What do you have, Leigh?
I still think the funniest thing I saw, certainly on free agency night, was Dwight Howard saying he's re-signing with the Lakers. I think it was Shams first. I'm not sure if he had it first, but some of those guys who were connected said, no, he hasn't signed. That's not a deal that's happening. And then thinking that, okay, it's just a formality that he will re-sign with the Lakers. And then all of a sudden he's signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. So I thought that was crazy because Dwight really did rehab his image so well. This season, he played hard. He won a championship, and he sort of became that guy that people used to love back in the day. But then he kind of goes, I've never ever seen that before, where a player's called his destination only to be corrected by a reporter saying, "You're not signing there, man. It hasn't been signed, that deal." So I thought that was pretty funny.
Especially when the team that he is, eventually leaving was the NBA champion. And he's like, I'm going back for win another one.
Yeah.
You're not, man. You're going to have to do it in the East. So good luck. Okay, that's very funny. I picked one, guys, that feels like 10 years ago. And I actually think it got overlooked a little bit. But remember when Myers Leonard became like an internet sensation for shotgunning Coors Light beers down in the bubble? Well, the company reached out to him for like this once-in-a-lifetime offer. They hooked him up, as we see here on the stream team, with a Coors Light chill stream bus. And he went on a cross-country adventure with his wife and his dog, and the bus included a driver. They went over 3,300 miles. They were stopping in cities, I guess, where family members lived. Now, they were doing all of this during a pandemic, which I thought was a little strange. But they started in Miami, and they ended 10 days later, I think, in LA. And it's just like, wow, this again feels like an eternity ago, where Myers Leonard on Twitter was giving me tips how to shotgun a beer. I remember, because I shotgunned a beer because of a pick and payoff at the start of the bubble. So this all happened not that long ago. I did a little research on it, though. Myers said, quote, I did a workout in the middle of Nebraska in a truck stop parking lot like a complete psychopath, because he had combat boots on and no shirts on. He was like he was going to get the paper, Leigh. But I guess it broke, like a classic bus breaking down on the road trip. It stopped working in Nebraska for a little bit, and he had to get his workout in.
Yeah, he's got the bod, though, that's okay if you go out and get the paper in the nude in the morning. So,
in fact, you're encouraged to just walk out nude if you look like Myers Leonard to pick up.
And he was showing it off there in that photo, too. Took the wife, the dog, and his shorts.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But
man, you guys think we should offer a sleeveless no dunks hoodie at nodunks.com? Show off the guns.
Yeah.
Are you warm or are you cold, bud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's neither, man. He's chill.
He's chill, man. After shotgunning all those Coors Lights. Yeah. Well, speaking of merchandise, go grab yours. Nodunks.com. We got a bunch of new hoodies up there, t-shirts. We got a Good Morning Sweet World mug you can grab. So go to nodunks.com, and we're going to be releasing a lot more merchandise throughout this season. So, if you have a suggestion, hell, you got a piece of artwork that you've done that you'd like to see us maybe turn into a shirt, email them in, nodunks@theathletic.com. Send your questions and your comments in for our next beach step, and we'll probably do one early next week before the start of the official season. NBA season starts a week from tomorrow, which is wild. Then we have Christmas, which is even more wild. Leave us those sweet 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. Really, really appreciate it, especially at the start of the season. Get your boys up the rankings, get some more eyeballs and ears on the show. Really appreciate it. That everybody's already done that, but if you haven't, go do it, please, if you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts. We're back tomorrow on Tuesday to answer more burning questions about the upcoming season. We'll have 6 new questions, a lot of fun ones. Until then, Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, see you for part 2. And you can now email your friend Jim, because Gmail is back up and running.
Embrace the day, people.